Dumelang, hello, bonjour. Welcome to another episode of Sechaba. Are you listening? As always, I'm your host, Gwen Lesetedi, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, TK. No Buffy today?
No Buffy today. I'm doing my best right now.
Okay. We are also joined by a very special guest. I'm sure you're going to hear that all my guests are special, but they really are, because they are women I personally never thought I'd meet in my life. And some of the walks of life they've taken and career choices they've made, I've never even heard of. So I would like to present to you today Dr. Gwen Lesetedi. She is a researcher, activist, and sociologist. Now, again, there are things I haven't heard of. I've always known in the world that researchers exist. Of course, we need information so that we can make positive choices. But then the idea of sociologist, to me, I don't know. I never thought of it as a long life profession. I thought it was like part of research, because you would need to understand how society works in order to help us make certain decisions, maybe about demographics or economics or politics. But yeah, I never thought it was a standalone thing. But let me not bore you with my own personal thoughts. Let me please ask Dr. Gwen Lesetedi to let us know who she is and what exactly she does for a living.
Good morning, Dumelang. As I've been introduced, all those things that she said. But in addition, I also want to highlight that I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and everything that there is in the family, an in-law, a sister, a brother, all those things. So all those things, that's me.
Okay. Okay, because today's topic, actually, let me say that. Today's topic is gender roles in society. As I grew up, there was always this idea that my job was to essentially nurture a home, nurture a house, actually, because apparently my husband's job was to ensure the house existed. There were 4 walls we would live in. My job is to make sure it's a home, it's peaceful, the children are nurtured, he's fed, he's clean, he's happy. But there's been a global shift in the world where that no longer applies. Now, I'm also going out to make money so I can build the 4 houses. I'm also capable of gardening or taking care of the cows at the farm. I have these abilities. However, I think my question is now boiling down to, like, what are gender roles and how do they fit into society today?
Actually, gender roles, like you said, when you were growing up, it was clear what you were supposed to do. And then gender roles, you might explain and say these are socially defined. Society decides one day I have a baby, you, the man, you have to do the extra work and so on.
Yeah.
But as for gender roles, these are socially defined. And like you put it, it was very clear, especially in the olden days, that a woman is supposed to stay at home, supposed to nurture the family. But these things are changing over time, because you do find there are stay-at-home men who look after the family, and they do the cooking while the wife goes out to work. But this is putting it very simplistic, because yes, I'm a woman, I'm a director of a bank, I have, I look after 100 workers, my word is law, whatever I say.
Yes.
But when I get home, in most cases, most of us women, we have to take off that directorship and now start cooking.
Yeah.
And take on the gender roles that are expected in the home.
Oh, okay. But now, in a situation like this, say, like, for example, me, I personally wouldn't want to. I go to work, maybe I wake up at 5 in the morning. I'm going to leave the house at about 7:30, get to the office at 8. I'm going to have a full day. How do I now begin navigating this world where almost every man expects that 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock when you get home, after 12 hours of being focused on this work day, you also now have to put on this new hat and start a whole new job? Where can I draw the line as a young woman as well?
Actually, what most women do nowadays, and like you've seen, you have a house helper. To fill in the gaps, or your cousin lives with you to fill in the gaps. But there are certain things that you should not allow the house helper to do for you. It's not very easy, But and there's no formula or manual which will tell you that, no, when you get home, you should now be submissive, take off your stilettos, whatever, and then you have to kneel down. No, it shouldn't be like that. And there are also men who are very open. You'll find he's already started cooking.
Yes.
He's done homework with the kids. So, like I said, there's no written rules, but there are cultural expectations.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So at times you agree with your partner that he'll be cooking every Monday to Friday. You cook Saturday and Sunday. The mother-in-law comes in and says, "What have you done to my son?" Or his friends out there will be saying, "You cook. You even bath the children."
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What has she given you? You know. And at times, as a man, you're also scared to say, "Look, my wife earns $1 million, and therefore, you know." So you also play to the cultural expectations.
Yes.
But when you're in the home, you try and navigate. You try to understand each other, make room. But I'm not saying it's straightforward. And then there are also times when you also want to cook for the family, you know. But it shouldn't be like a punishment because your grandmother did it and therefore you have to do it. So right now, life is about negotiations, navigating, and understanding each other.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's easier said than done.
Yeah,
That's
Doc.
true. That's true.
When you were speaking there, I was just saying because you were describing me as a husband. You know, like sometimes my wife would just come home and find, you know, a hot meal already prepared, regardless of whatever time she's coming. Even today, I woke up at 4 just to go jumpstart her car, go put petrol in her car, come back and park it and say, "Hey, your car is downstairs, ready for you to go." She could have done it herself. I could have decided to try and teach her how to do it. She knows how to do it, but then she's like, "No, you are here. You are the man of the house in essence." But how we have defined now the gender roles do not just boil down to already what society has dictated. We've also negotiated our own form of gender roles where, okay, fine, I'll do this. You can help with this. You can help with maybe paying the bills. I will then help with maybe the groceries. So it's very interesting how you're breaking it all down. But maybe there's a young lady somewhere out there, maybe in Botswana, maybe somewhere in SADC or somewhere overseas, who's saying, "But doctor, I have tried to negotiate, but I feel burdened. I feel oppressed. How do I then, maybe without trying to run away from my culture or the societal expectations, how do I then navigate my relationship where I'm expected to do things that don't fall into my own principles?" Maybe through your own lived experience or maybe through your own, what you've also maybe researched. What could you advise those young ladies to do? English.
That's a good question.
Actually, one thing that you've said, which is also very important, we can't just throw away the cultural norms, the cultural expectations. In most cases, they're there to guide us. And you know, when they're guiding you, there are things which you say, "No, this is not really for me." And this applies to both boys and girls, men and women, you know, navigate, like I said. So for a young woman who's just starting out, it's very difficult. You have to have skills, negotiating skills. You have to understand. And then the person, likely enough for you, you understand, okay, my wife, I'll go and fuel for her, I'll wash the car for her and so on. But she might not find a partner like that. So how do you do it? In most cases, you really have to negotiate. You have to understand. I can give an example. When I worked for UB, the University of Botswana, the sociology department. After I had worked for 10 years with government, I joined the University of Botswana. And because of the research, I love the place. And when I get there, I'm in my late 30s, going on to 40, you know, they start saying you need a PhD. And there are scholarships available. So how do I tell my husband? You know, okay, this one, I hope he's not listening. I just said, they said I need a PhD. I put everything on the University of Botswana. They are saying I need a PhD to teach. They are saying this. And they are saying there's a scholarship. So I have to choose where I'm going. And he says, okay, it sounds a good idea. Where do you want to go? And I had a friend who was studying in University of Cape Town. A fellow researcher, with, you know, a prominent lawyer, I won't mention his name. He just said, you know, come to University of Cape Town. And it worked out well because with Cape Town, I could commute. If I felt homesick after a month, I would just tell my supervisor, I'm going home, you know. And we could, so that's how it is. You as a person, whether you are a man or a woman, you also have to know your partner and say, how do I approach this? It might not work out. It might just give you, okay, so you're preferring to have a PhD and you're sacrificing your family. You know, there are those people who say that. You have to choose.
That's one of my fears.
Yeah, you have to choose. And you don't want to find yourself in such a position because you want your PhD, you also want your family. I can look after the 10-year-old and the 15-year-old, but how about the 5-year-old? What are we going to do? You know, that's a genuine concern, you know. So you also listen and say, okay, no, I'll try and get a helper, or my sister will come in, or, you know, you can't do it alone. You bring in other people and say, okay, my sister will come in. And if I'm not here, your sister will do this for me. Or my friend, my best friend will be here, and so on. So you don't try to do it alone. It's not possible.
That's true.
So the key thing here is also communication.
Very important.
I think so.
And compromise. Be willing to compromise. Because I'm seeing that, like most relationships, it's always when there is a disagreement, none are coming with a solution. They keep on pointing to the problem, but no one is willing to move to say, okay, let's then try this. So I think gender roles in essence is something that affects everyone, if I can say.
One way or the other.
One way or the other.
Yes.
Whether you were born in a liberal family, conservative family, gender roles do affect us. And I'm not so sure, Doc. Like, now let's take it maybe outside the relationship and into society now.
Yes.
How does, let's say, my sister Mo here, she doesn't like wearing dresses. She doesn't like, she likes
Don't
smoking.
see me wearing one today, okay? Yeah.
She's a smoker. Right? All these are things that are not stereotypically what makes a woman. And let's say she goes to an event. How does she now navigate being herself and being in a place where, you know, there is this societal expectation that she must be wearing a dress, she mustn't be smoking, she must look ladylike. How does she become herself in such an environment without pleasing, or let's say, without people pleasing?
Yeah.
Actually, you use the right word. You compromise. You like smoking. And then you're in an environment where smoking is frowned upon. If I were you, I wouldn't smoke. I'll wait until I get home.
Or disappear.
Oh, go to the toilet. I've seen women smoking in the toilet. So again, you're saying something that compromise. You have to compromise. Yeah. But of course, it comes at a cost.
Yes.
Can you imagine? Once everybody else is smoking, all the men are smoking.
Yes.
Why can't you also smoke?
That was going to be my next
It's just
question.
a cigarette. I see, like I said, I used to teach at the University of Botswana. You see these young girls wearing skimpy clothes, but over the time, I started understanding. I kept telling myself, it's their time, you know?
Yeah.
So if someone comes to class late and they're wearing hot pants, I shouldn't frown upon them. I'd say, oh, you came late. Please, next time when you come late, sit at the back. My focus should not be on what they are wearing. It takes a long time to understand and accept that you're coming from a different era. You are old. You should accept what was good then has changed, you know. So young women can smoke. It's at UB. They're seated there discussing with their friends and people are smoking. But I won't frown at the boys who are smoking. My focus is on the young lady. Again, it's my upbringing. But I also have to move back and say, no, it's their time. Although smoking is bad. For everybody.
It actually is, guys. Like, please don't hear me saying this like I am now and think I am not aware of the potential to get cancer, bronchitis. Hell, to be honest, probably part of the reason I have a cold right now is because I smoke. It's really not a great habit to have. You probably should not be doing it. I am fighting my own addiction demons with the nicotine. So please don't judge me for it. It does come from a habitual place. But I'm at least honest enough with myself to know this. And anybody who asks, I'm honest with them about it. We are going to be right back talking more about gender roles in society on Sechaba. Are you listening? Welcome back to Sechaba. Are you listening? I'm still here with my bro TK.
Hello.
And my wonderful guest, Dr. Gwen Lesetedi. We've just come back from discussing how there's a young double standard between men and women. And it's 2024, guys. I still don't understand why it is okay for a man to stand at the bar with his quart of Black Label and his cigarette in his hand. Meanwhile, if I do the same thing, I'm somewhat an unrowdy woman. It doesn't make sense to me, TK.
No, I totally agree that double standards do exist, and there are certain areas where I also agree with norms, like societal norms, like our lovely doctor was mentioning, where students were coming to present, a presentation, in as much as it's in an informal setting.
Yeah.
It still has that formality of it.
Yeah,
so you must treat it for it. Yeah, so there's a dress code for it. So you're not going to rock up at an interview, dressed like you just came from the gym or just
or the club.
Or the club. You're gonna dress modest, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not to say women should dress this way or men should dress this way. It's just now also about setting.
Yeah.
So there are certain areas where we find that norms do exist. Also, so that you're not taken advantage of, or you're not put in an uncomfortable situation. Because if, let's say, these young people in the classroom were not well cultured, there could have been a lot of catcalling, which could have made a lot of people uncomfortable.
That's true.
To a point where it could have disrupted. This is not to blame the people who dressed a certain type of way, but it's just to show also that we now live also in a more civilized society where certain places you don't find such behavior.
Yeah.
But let's take it out of that context and say we're putting them in the middle of a very disruptive class setting.
Like
so
27. I'm not saying people in 27 are disruptive, but there was a history back in my day where you couldn't walk through that neighborhood without losing something. I'm just saying.
So I do also agree with my elders when they tell me that as a man you should also do this. You should also be someone who is there to provide or to, because in essence it also gives me that push to want to live up to that expectation. But now my question then comes, because as a man, I've been told this is what I need to do. Let's say, like you were saying, my wife makes more than me, right? Let's put that into perspective and say she makes, let's say, 50,000. I make 10,000, but I want to be a provider. Do you think gender roles sometimes put unnecessary pressures on people, or it's just a subjective thing?
No, gender roles do put pressure. And I think one thing we should have gone back a bit. Gender roles, although I'm saying they're socially defined, society decides. Where does it start from? Socialization.
Yes.
From the time you are growing up, a man should provide. A woman should sweep the floor. So as you grow up, there's so much pressure on you. Okay, it's easier when you are growing up, you are young. You can sweep the floor. Of course, you'll be complaining, my brother is playing football and I'm made to wash the dishes and so on. But it becomes a reality when you are grown up, like in your situation, in the family setup. You've been brought up to provide, but you get less than your wife. What do you do in such a situation?
Yeah.
And again, communication is very important. You should also open up and say, honey, I only brought in 10,000 pool. So I'm going to pay for water and electricity. Do you think you can take care of the school fees? And even your honey should also be in a position, unless she doesn't know. You've been presenting yourself as a millionaire. You are the boss. You earn more than she does. Then that's a different situation. But we should learn to open up. It doesn't make you less of a man if you say, I'll pay for water and electricity. You pay for the school fees and so on. But then there are also homes we should acknowledge where a woman has been brought up to, not to be the breadwinner, but she just finds herself in that position. There are women who don't contribute. They will tell you that, no, it's up to the man to pay for school fees. They don't bring anything to there are individuals who are like that. And of course, there are also men who've been brought up to be breadwinners, but somehow they lose the way, you know what is going on, maybe the pressure. they forfeit the position of breadwinner, but they won't show it out there. They're still the breadwinners, but what goes on in the home? You know? So yes, there are a lot of these scenarios, and I'll keep emphasizing that there's no written rules to say when the wife earns 20, you earn 5, therefore she should take care of everything. You have to negotiate. You have to talk about it as a family. You know? And then when you talk as a family, of course, they say when you get married, it's not just about you and her. You are marrying the two families come together, if not the whole village come together. But there are situations where it should just be you and her. But not in all situations, you know. You can't do without the rest of the members of the family. But when it comes to finances, to issues which affect your everyday life, you can forget mother-in-law and father-in-law and say, okay, mom, you brought me up to be the breadwinner, but it's not working. So let me see what works. Yeah.
That's very, very true.
Yeah.
I actually really like what you said because I genuinely believe in that. And I think whenever I speak to people about it, they look at me like, I'm not sure you understand, Morunga. I don't. Actually, I had somebody say to me, I don't think you're ready to be a wife. And I was like, but what do you mean? I can cook. I can clean. I have my own vehicle. I'm paying my own bills. Like, my womb is fine. You know, I'm cute and stuff. So why am I not ready to be a wife? No, you think you should be able to pay for things in the house. Do I not live there, guys? Am I not eating the food in the fridge? Did we not make the child together? So why is it that maybe some of us want to stick so hard into what we knew? Like, why is it that some people don't want to adjust, don't want to really hear each other? And I'm not saying it's like a bad thing. I think you are allowed to be a staunch traditionalist as a man. Please find yourself a staunch traditionalist as a woman, because it's not going to work if you come find Moronga. We are going to fight, but what makes us stick to those things? Like, is it just, oh, it works for me, so
Again, I think it's also part of the socialization, you know. Like you were giving an example during break that you were brought up, beer is a no-go area. That's the way you were brought up. And you are not even going to compromise on that when your parents are around. So for some people, it's part of the socialization. They can't move away from the fact that a woman can provide, you know. It's in there. But there are also other factors apart from socialization. Like we're saying, there are pressures out there, you know. And for instance, if you look at the work situation, you know, the work situation at times can be very toxic.
That's true.
Because as a woman, I can even talk from experience, as a woman, you're supposed to perform maybe even much higher than a man, you know. And if you do something like, if you keep saying, no, but today I don't have someone to look after the kids, so I can't come to work, you know, it's like you're being irresponsible. You tell your boss, I can't travel to Johannesburg for a meeting because my child will be presenting at school, you know, they're having sports day and so on. It's like, what's wrong with you? You know? You come in late because the helper didn't come. Then you're irresponsible because you should leave the home things at home. You come here, you are Dr. Lesetedi. At home, you are Ma Lesetedi. Don't mix up the two. So you find all these things working, you know, against you. In the work situation, at home, and even in the family. You know, when you go for family gatherings, and the women are supposed to be at the pots, but you decide, I'm not going to the pots today. I'm sitting with the men.
Sounds like me.
Oh, that's what you do?
Yes, my family knows there's plenty of instances. Yeah, I am that soft, spoiled, medium school going, yo, Mr. T's child. No, she's not that girl.
You mentioned
Inside.
something before we started the podcast that actually just hit me now. That, you know, some of our cultural norms that define the gender roles, you can kind of get away with it if you're in a different culture. And I just thought of the time we went, remember when I went to Zim to finish the traditional wedding, and they expected my wife to wake up at 5 a.m. to go catch a hen. Not your broilers, those, the African one.
like the proper
ones you
one.
have to
It's
run
going to
after.
jump the
And
fence.
she was just like, me, I do not know. And then my uncle just came, oh, my Americano. You can't do this to my Americano. And she never had to chase the hen. No, she has to wash people's faces. I've never, let's compromise. Just wash the brothers. Okay, let's do this. So sometimes when you do not understand even a particular culture, it's easier to get away with it. But what about those people who are within that culture, but now it's not a matter of do they want to compromise? It's a matter of they want to do away with that, with their culture. What do you think it's the best decision one can make? To say, you know what, I do not want anything to do with my culture. It's toxic. It's this. Because I've met a lot of young people when they come for counseling, and they always blame culture. So they are not as lucky as some of us to have been to have married interculturally. So they're now saying, look, I want nothing to do with the Botswana culture.
Yeah.
Or the Zimbabwean culture or the South African culture. What would your advice be to people who want to do away with culture totally?
Actually, you cannot do away with, you can't do away with culture totally. Families should also learn to appreciate that within the family, there are certain things that I cannot do. Even though I was brought up in that culture, it doesn't mean I can slaughter a chicken. There are certain things I cannot do, honestly. And families should also look into that. So if I give myself as an example, where I grew up on the copper belt in Zambia. So a lot of things we did not do. Okay, we did plow a bit and harvest. And then I come here. Plowing is part and part of the culture, especially when I came here. You couldn't run away from it. But for me, a cow is something that you see out there. But I had such a wonderful mother-in-law. She understood. She supported me, because I would even joke and say, no, for where I come from, we don't plow, we just buy from the supermarket. And then she'd say, no, it's a sign of laziness. Where do you think the things from the supermarket come from? So again, it's up to family members also, Like I said, family is not about my husband and myself. So when you introduce me to your family, they should also understand. But then if you grew up in that culture, again, it doesn't mean 100% you subscribe. If you grew up in a culture where you have to kneel down, there are times when, honestly, they should understand that she can't kneel down in front of 10 men washing their hands, even though it's culture. So culture is also the people there. How do they present themselves? How do they take it? And you're right, people hide behind culture. Culture says this is what we should do. But honestly, how can you kneel down or cook a big size 20 pot because you are an in-law?
With a spoon that is taller than you.
Can you imagine? So they should also be compassionate. They should be understanding, not between husband and wife, but even in the family members. You should be happy. An in-law has been brought. Your son has brought a daughter-in-law. But even the daughter-in-law should also be. You don't just say, no, me where I come from, we don't slaughter chickens. No. It's against my religion. No, there should also be a way of talking to people. Mother-in-law, you know what, I cannot slaughter you. Or tell your sister-in-law, or tell your husband, please tell mother-in-law that this part of culture, I know we speak the same language, it's been done. Every in-law who has come to the family, this is what they did. But for me, talk. They might not understand, they might label you as lazy, but at least they know where you're coming from. But don't just dismiss it and say no. And you go there. In Zambia, it's important you wear chitenge. Here, you're supposed to cover your shoulders. At least there are things which they don't even harm you. This is what we need. Let's explain to our young people. Even when we're advising them, we should explain, women should not smoke, that's it. You should not wear trousers.
I actually want to know from you, TK. No, because you're a counselor, and I'm sure there's plenty of men out there who are feeling staunch traditionalist, but intentionally wanting to find a woman like me and put her down, make her traditional. But similarly, we have a I don't know if this is the politically correct term, abo slay queen. Bo baby who just want to eat some man's money. They don't care about him, his well-being. They're just like, yes, he has money and I'm gonna work at it and use it to look good. And so that is them taking advantage of provider, but then there's the men taking advantage of submissive women. What would you say to such people? Because I personally believe something wrong with you if you want to do that to another human being.
Well, let me first start by saying this. Like our lovely doctor mentioned, it's about, okay, I mentioned it and then she reiterated it, the compromising part.
Okay.
And she mentioned communication. And I was that, stiff, traditional man to say, I want a wife who will be in the kitchen. I want a wife who will wake up and cook. And I think people in the podcast are going to get tired of just hearing how many times I cook.
Yes. In fact, you should make us dinner today.
Yeah, because I cook every day. Every day. It's like something, the only time my wife cooks is when she's teaching me how to cook.
Nice.
Right?
We like
But you won't find a lot of men like that. Right? They will remain rigid in their belief. Right? And it then goes back to what you said, that if you're very cultural, look for someone who's also cultural. I have friends who are very cultural, who are ladies, where when I tell them, oh no, I'm actually an activist for people who've experienced trauma like rape. They're like, oh, you talk about rape? As a man? I'm like, yes, I talk about rape as a man. They're like, no man talks about rape.
Yeah.
You cook? Yes, I cook. Oh no, my man will never cook. I will cook for him. Right? They are there.
They exist.
So they exist.
They exist.
Right? You then find a man who then wants to exert his dominance on a woman he found. Let's say he found you like this. Now he's beating you because you're not conforming to what he wants. Now he's telling you that, oh, you're gaining too much weight. But baby, you found me gaining weight. What do you mean I'm gaining too much weight?
Like, but what's the problem here?
So it's about going where you are appreciated and you appreciate. It's not about you saying, let me find this person and mold them. I think the perception that men have is because of patriarchy and dominance. We think that we can shape whatever reality we want and we can make a world that we want.
Yeah.
Then to the women that are slave queens, to be honest, I don't think there's anything wrong with slave queens. If, in my own personal opinion, why? Because there are men who actually admire them. There are men who are willing to go for the slave queens.
Yes,
so why judge a woman who wants to be a slave queen when there is a big market for men who are willing to date for the money? I remember there was that time when there was that whole Benz the Benz van incident where it was get out of my car incident.
Oh, yes.
That man knew the type of people he had brought in.
With,
So now he's acting surprised when they behave a certain way. So it goes back again to this whole patriarchy that as men, we think we can just change someone and make a wife out of someone who doesn't want to be a wife.
Yeah.
So it's all about just going where you're wanted and where it actually aligns with your own principles. So if you as more are after money and you find a man who doesn't want to have children, who doesn't want to get married, and you stay with him for 7 years because of his money, and then you bring up, when are we getting married? And he says, we are never getting married. Don't now be blasting him on Twitter, men are pigs, I've been with him for 7 years. No.
Just leave and start again, baby.
You knew. So basically, that's what I can say. Yeah, that's what I can say.
Yeah. Okay. I really think that is a fair assessment. Guys, in terms of gender roles, it boils down to you and the person. And I'm not going to say to you and your partner because this also applies in work. There are spaces where you are not feminine enough for your job. There'll be spaces where you're not masculine enough for your job. There'll be times where you can't be a good enough mother, good enough brother, sister, father. And look, you are going to sometimes fall short. However, the key is to have a tribe, a group of people or friends, family, whoever they are, who are supporting you, nurturing you, helping you grow, seeing those little twigs in your eyes and saying, Morunga, pull that out. It's very important to have those people. And now, especially when you're choosing your job and your partner, be careful, guys. Consider whether or not you're wanted there. Consider whether or not your mental health will survive there. Consider whether or not you are going to start putting onto people your projections of what life should look like or what reality should look like, because that's not healthy. It's really not okay. But thank you, TK, for joining me today.
Always welcome.
And thank you, Dr. Lesetedi, for helping me unpack this issue just a little bit.
Thank you very much. I also learned a lot from just talking to the two of you.
Oh, thank
Very
you.
interesting. Yeah.
Usually we are the ones doing most of the learning.
Yes, that is our
Learning
key
is a
thing.
two-way process.
Yes,
We're learning
yes.
from each other.
Yes. And we hope, Sechaba, you have been listening, you have been learning. We will catch you on the next episode.